From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I'm Carla Gonzalez. We begin in the Dominican Republic, where a second day of talks between the Venezuelan government and the opposition is expected to begin in a few hours from now. After a marathon session on Monday, the discussions were suspended for consultations. Hopes had been high of a final agreement at this fifth round of the dialogue. The opposition delegation has raised concerns over the presidential election announced for the coming months. But the leader of the government team says he remains hopeful.
We need to continue to be optimistic regarding the evolution of this negotiation. We have been for a while now, very close to coming to an agreement, and there's a preliminary document that allows us to say that we're missing very few details to come to an agreement. So today could be a big day, as Surat would say so.
Our correspondent Madeleine Garcia has the latest from Santo Domingo.
Yesterday night, the spokesperson for the government of the Dominican Republic announced that the talks between Venezuela's government and the opposition will continue today. This was decided by both parties after 6 hours of discussion on a range of issues. The government and the opposition will review the agreements reached during the first day of these talks and will continue to discuss the 6 main items on the agenda. The talks between the government and the opposition resumed just after the National Constituent Assembly called for elections to be held before April 30th, and after the opposition Mood coalition was suspended and for now cannot take part on the coming presidential elections. This decision was taken by the Supreme Court because the members of the Mood coalition are also members of other political parties. The opposition raised their concern over this during this new round of talks, while the government is asking the opposition to recognize the National Constituent Assembly. We will keep you informed.
Madeleine Garcia from Santo Domingo. Workers at Argentina's National Institute of Technology, or INTI, are holding strikes against layoffs as President Mauricio Macri announced a reduction of government positions to decrease the size of the state.
President Mauricio Macri announced that there will be a 25% cut to positions within the national executive and that salaries will be frozen. State unions are concerned and are doubling down their mobilization efforts.
With this measure, more workers are going to lose jobs because Mauricio Macri set out to do away with a number of positions. This comes with additional layoffs. And unfortunately, we know how that ends. We are going to have more layoffs in the public sector.
Mobilizations against the dismissals of state employees have been repeated over and over in Argentina. Workers of the National Institute of Industrial Technology have peacefully taken over the plant, where they work to defend the dismissed employees.
It
is very distressing. We're all waiting for the telegram to arrive. Workers and entire families who could be left without their sources of income.
They want to dismantle the union organization. This is clearly a political attack, and the labor flexibilization will certainly result in the loss of rights for workers.
The cuts at the INTI, it's part of the restructuring that the national government has been carrying out in recent days in different state agencies. The workers denounce the fact that there is a purge at the institution that clearly harms the development of the industry, the scientific and technological research of Argentina.
They didn't expect anyone to come, but a lot of people came in solidarity to use their body against this wave of layoffs, where the main objective has been to downsize the state.
Representatives of the National Institute of Industrial Technology reject the layoffs. They plan to press on with their protests and occupation so long as there is no possibility of talks with the authorities to reincorporate the laid-off workers.
Grenada is on an election footing as Prime Minister Keith Mitchell has announced general elections for March 13. The date is a significant one for Grenadians because it was on this day in 1979 that Maurice Bishop overthrew the government, making the start of the Grenadian Revolution. Mitchell has been Prime Minister since 2013 and he's hoping to retain power. He will be challenged by the opposition of the National Democratic Congress of Grenada. U.S. Christian groups protested on Monday outside the U.S. Embassy in Honduras against Washington's recognition of President Juan Orlando Hernández. Allegations of corruption and electoral fraud recently sparked deadly protests in the country. This delegation of Christians is asking the U.S. government to withdraw its support for President Hernández, who was sworn in on Saturday, and investigate violence during anti-government protests.
Recognition of this government by the United States, I mean, we consider our government somewhat illegitimate as well. Trump does not represent the majority of the American people, and the foreign policy decisions fly in the face of any moral, decent policy. The fact that his crackdown on immigrants, deporting Hondurans back to a terrible, political, fragile, terrible situation is a terrible legacy that they're going to have to live with.
We call on our United States government to withdraw its recognition of the fraudulent elected government in Honduras, to demand an investigation of and to judge those directly responsible for and behind killings in the protests from November 27 to date.
U.S. President Donald Trump delivers his first State of the Union address on Tuesday night, and it is no surprise the topic of immigration will take center stage yet again. Here's what to expect.
I hope it's going to be good. We worked on it hard, cover a lot of territory, including our great success with the markets and with the tax cut. And it's a big speech, an important speech. We cover immigration, and for many years, they've been talking immigration. They never got anything done. We're going to get something done.
Trump is expected to pitch a controversial immigration plan which proposes giving almost 2 million immigrants a pathway to citizenship. In exchange, he gets $25 billion to build his border wall, step up security at ports of entry, and structure internal enforcement. But it's not just immigration. Trump also wants tighter control over trade.
The world has taken advantage of us on trade for many years. And as you probably noticed, we're stopping that, and we're stopping it cold, and we have to. We have to have reciprocal trade. It's not a one-way deal anymore.
The U.S. president says unfair trade deals has cost jobs, and he's determined to keep American companies at home. Most recently, Donald Trump lauded a deal he helped broker to stop air conditioner maker Carrier from moving its plant to Mexico. He claimed the move saved over 1,000 jobs. The reality is, Carrier has since laid off 500 workers.
Just like everyone else that voted for him, help our economy out. Hope to do what he promised the nation he'd do about keeping jobs in America safe. Apparently it's not happening as of right now.
Automaker Fiat Chrysler is also investigating $1 billion to shift production from one of its most profitable trucks from Mexico to Michigan. Fiat is worried changes to the North American Free Trade Agreement could hurt its bottom line. Trump's final salvo, a massive infrastructure plan to keep the economy chugging. White House officials say Trump will propose spending $200 billion on infrastructure projects and a possible additional $800 billion in state and local funding, making this a $1 trillion speech.
We'll take a short break now. Joins us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
O de los señalamientos o de lo que se dice a veces en las redes sociales, que a veces son muy irritantes y a veces les gusta ser señalamientos muy duros y muy lapidarios y que poco recogen de los logros porque ven realmente ven lo que México ha venido alcanzando en cifras, en números, en estadísticas, en realidad, y advierten que México...
Welcome back. The sixth round of NAFTA negotiations ended on Monday in Montreal. United States Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said the round was a step forward, but that the negotiations are progressing very slowly. Lighthizer is demanding to see progress before the next round of talks in Mexico City in late February.
So this round was a step forward, but we are progressing very slowly. Some real headway was made here today. The United States views NAFTA as a very important agreement. We're committed to moving forward. I am hopeful progress will accelerate soon. We'll work very hard between now and the beginning of the next round, and we hope for major breakthroughs during that period. We will engage both Mexico and Canada urgently, and we will go where these negotiations take us.
The leading candidate for Mexico's presidential election says he will remove immunity for the president of the country if he is elected in July. Andrés Manuel López Obrador of the left-wing Morena party was introducing the people he would appoint to top judicial posts. He says he is determined to root out official corruption and graft.
We will propose a legal reform to suppress immunity and privileges, including changing Article 108 of the Constitution to allow the President to be judged for the crimes of corruption and violation of political electoral rights.
Millions of people lack access to public health services in Mexico, and those who do must deal with supply and medicine shortages. Medical workers point to the government for these difficulties.
Medical workers from Chiapas traveled to Mexico City to bring attention to the poor state of government hospitals and also medical clinics. They blamed the government of persecuting them for taking part in this movement that seeks to provide better treatment to patients.
They will do anything to intimidate us. For the past 8 days, they have been calling us to say they have arrest orders in our names and that we must desist. We are being persecuted.
There are
no x-rays, no tomographs, no ultrasounds. Patients have to buy their own medicine because hospitals have nothing stocked.
These types of conditions happen all over Mexico, according to doctors and nurses who must, on a daily basis, deal with budget cuts imposed by the government over the last 2 years. This year, the medical sector received a budget raise of merely 0.09%, barely enough to improve their service.
The decay of the health sector is due to a macro-political strategy encouraged by foreign interests that are in control of our political system. I could go on about things you already know, about crippled institutions which have no resources and have been attacked by the media, placing the responsibility for their poor state on the hands of workers, using them as scapegoats for the government.
This situation has started to be analyzed in forums convened by workers who are upfront about the conditions under which over 113 million Mexicans receive medical care.
We know politicians receive care in private institutions where they have every resource available. That's why they are blind to our reality and everything we are lacking. That's why we are here, to organize, to fight, and to safeguard the health system. We are not afraid.
According to the latest national survey of household income and expenses carried out in 2016, 21.3 million people lacked access to public health services. Workers say that social pressure has prevented the government from stepping up its neoliberal cuts, which would limit the number of conditions covered and privatize most health services.
Guatemala's President Jimmy Morales is being criticized for alleged excessive spending and bonus payments to a former Minister of Defense. Our correspondent Mario Rosales has all the details.
Hola, ¿qué tal, compañeros? Un saludo hasta el set central.
Here in the capital of Guatemala, President Jimmy Morales is facing several allegations. First, the local press revealed there was exorbitant spending by the office of the president on clothes and food, ranging from $4,000 for shampoo to $5,000 for glasses. This has not been well received by the people of Guatemala. But these expenses do not come from the president himself, but from the Secretary of the Administrative and Security Matters, who is in charge of the president's security. Also, former Minister of Defense is being investigated for a major bonus in pay in 2016. This has caused new divisions in the country and calls for President Jimmy Morales to clarify this situation. These are the two topics creating controversy here in Guatemala. Back to you.
Rosales from Guatemala. The President of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos, has announced he suspended peace talks with the country's largest remaining guerrilla group, the National Liberation Army, ELN, which were taking place in Ecuador. The decision appears to be linked to the bombings of police stations in northern Colombia, which left 7 policemen dead and 45 wounded over the weekend. A bilateral ceasefire ended earlier this month after the ELN accused the government of failing to meet its commitments. The indigenous people of Colombia marched beside the coffin of indigenous leader Eleazar Teikia, who was murdered on Friday in the Chocó department. The communities of Embera Catio walked to the city of Medellin singing the indigenous guard anthem. They also planned to protest against the military whom they accused of killing Eleazar. The national indigenous organization said they are demanding that the government keeps its promise to protect indigenous leaders. Bolivia's cable car system has been included in the Guinness World Records for 2018 as the largest in the world. Let's take a look at this. President Evo Morales' initiative opened for service in 2014. The system connects a total of 30 kilometers between La Paz and El Alto. The cable car system carries more than 150,000 passengers a day and hopes to reach 300,000 once all the stations are fully built. The panoramic view of the Andes can also be enjoyed.
We saw that La Paz was included in the 2018 publication of the Guinness Records, which declared that as of 2015, when the red, yellow and green lines were introduced with a 10-kilometer extension in La Paz, the state company Mi Teleférico has the Guinness record for the largest cable car system in the world.
The cable car, thanks to President Evo Morales, who set up this cable car for the Bolivian people, help us a lot, especially as students. For example, we arrive quicker. Sometimes when we take the minibus, we are late because of the gridlock.
We'll take another short break. Joins us after a look at what our multimedia team is reporting. Welcome back. Mahatma Gandhi fought throughout his life for freedom and peace. His murder on January 30, 1948 shocked the entire world. Let's know more about his life in this next report.
India's greatest leader and social reformer, Mahatma Gandhi, was fundamental for the country's independence from the British. Thanks to his philosophy and non-violent approach, Gandhi became a mass leader, a guide who saw India not only as an independent state, but as a country free from discrimination. At a time when India was divided by religion, different languages and the caste system, it was Gandhi who brought people together and motivated them to fight against British colonialism. In particular, Gandhi was committed to eliminating the concept of untouchability from society. He tried to give the lowest caste more dignity by raising their status and changing their name from Dalits to Harijans, meaning God's people. In 1933, during a tour across India, he asked Hindus to open places previously forbidden to Dalits, such as temples and village wells. Ironically, it was his secular ideology and his respect for all religions that eventually cost him his life. He was murdered in 1948 by Nathuram Godse. Nathuram was a part of right-wing extremists that saw Gandhi as the cause of its division into India and Pakistan. Gandhi fought for the untouchables cause until the end, but century-old traditions in India were too deep-rooted to be changed in just a lifetime. Despite caste discrimination being banned in 1947 with the achievement of India's independence, untouchables still face discrimination, exclusion, and extreme poverty today. Last year, for instance, marked the deadliest year for minority groups with 11 people killed on apparent religious and caste grounds. Gandhi is long gone, but caste discrimination remains an unfinished war in India.
The Catalan Parliament Speaker Roger Torrent says the vote for a new regional head has been postponed. Although the Speaker insisted that the self-exiled former leader Carles Puigdemont was the only viable candidate to lead Catalonia. Puigdemont is the subject of an arrest warrant for leading the secession bid. He is now in Brussels and faces arrest the minute he steps foot in Spain.
Nor the Deputy Prime Minister, Soraya, neither the Constitutional Court will decide who will become the Catalan president. Nor Deputy Prime Minister Soraya, neither the Constitutional Court will decide who becomes president. That decision lays on the members of Parliament who were democratically elected.
Clashes between Palestinian youth and Israeli forces have resulted in the arrest of 5 young men in the West Bank. Our correspondent in Palestine, Noor Harasin, has the details.
In the West Bank, Israeli forces arrested 5 Palestinian young men, including minors, in different cities and towns around the West Bank. Clashes also erupted between Palestinian youth and Israeli forces close to checkpoints between Palestinian villages in the West Bank and Israeli cross points. According to Palestinian medical sources, there was 10 injuries reported, most of them by tear gas. These clashes continue as Palestinian wants to express their rage over the latest decision by the U.S. President Donald Trump to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Meanwhile, here in the Gaza Strip, the situation continued to be calm and peaceful on the ground. However, over on the shores of Gaza Strip, the Israeli naval forces attacked again Palestinian fishermen, forcing them to flee the area immediately.
That was Noor Harasin from Palestine. Now let's have a look at some other stories from around the world.
Ireland will hold a referendum at the end of May on liberalising its restrictive abortion laws, a highly sensitive issue in the devoutly Catholic country. The referendum will ask voters if they want to keep the constitutional restriction on abortion or repeal it and allow the Irish Parliament to legislate on the issue. Prime Minister Leo Varadkar has said that he will campaign for reform. Kenyan authorities have shut down TV stations to prevent live coverage of a ceremony to swear in opposition leader Raila Odinga as an alternative president 3 months after he claims an election was stolen from him. 72-year-old Odinga refused to accept President Kenyatta's re-election, which came after a deeply divisive 2017 poll season in which rights activists say at least 92 people were killed. Several transgender women have been detained in Indonesia during a police raid in predominantly Muslim Aceh region. Police also forcefully cut their hair and were sent for coaching to become real men. Many human rights activists have been outraged by these arrests.
With the growing number of transgender, the members of public are concerned about where we can relocate and relocate them, aside from those involved in drugs and terrorism. This is my responsibility, and I'm doing this in goodwill.
Even by the standard of the Aceh's Islamic Criminal Code, they do no crime, even by the standard of the Islamic Code. But still, they were harassed, they were raided, their businesses are closed. Their businesses are closed because the police pledged to arrest any visitor going into their hair salon, meaning that they might lose their income. So this has to be stopped nationwide, not only in Aceh, but all over Indonesia, in Jakarta, in Surabaya, in Banjarmasin, they have to be stopped.
French Finance Ministry is investigating whether a Nutella promotion that led to violent scenes in supermarket broke trading laws. Last week, shoppers at Antomache shop showed and yelled trying to reach Nutella jars to buy chocolate and hazelnut spread with 70% discount.
And with this, we've come to the end of this morning news brief. These and many other stories, you can find them on our website, telesurtv.net/English. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.